what is the best way to showcase technical achievements that may not be immediately visible to stakeholders? What we've got to remember is we want it to be visible. We want to make sure that we're staying customer centric, but at times that's not possible. Okay. So first of all, as a team, have you broken down the work in such a way that you can't show it, but you could have? So take that point away, take it into your retrospective and consider it. But we are where we are. We're in a sprint review. We've got some highly technical stuff and non-technical stakeholders. Please do not do what I did and show them black screens with white console text. Okay, they don't know what they're looking at. It baffles them. It may well anger them or scare them. It's certainly not going to be helpful. Right? I remember as somebody working on integration, I loved the scrolling text that you got when systems were talking and all the messages were flying around and it was all working, and I could look at it and I could understand what was happening, and it was wonderful. And then I met some technical stakeholders and they loved it as well because they had a similar background to me and they understood it all. And that's brilliant. And then I showed it to some people who computers were magic to. They didn't understand it. They thought we were hacking or I don't know what. They shied away from it, to say the least. And that's not surprising. Their background was not in making systems talk to each other. It wasn't in coding. It wasn't in product development at all, really. It was in running their business. Okay? Some of these people happen to be doctors, very smart. That intelligence doesn't immediately make it accessible. So what we've got to do is, when we go into a sprint review, is remember what we're demonstrating is a working product from a customer's perspective. If everything you've done is a technical change, there may well be nothing to show them. Okay? However, I've encountered this a couple of times, so a couple of stories to share with you about how we tackled that. First one was very simple. It was back-end messaging. Okay, there wasn't really much to show. There was a screen and a message appeared, and that was it. So we knew that, and we thought, well, that's not actually going to really explain the difficulty, the effort involved, or what it does. So beforehand, we scheduled a load of messages to enter the system. We timed them all the way through, and we knew how long it took a message to get from A to Z. And when we scheduled them, we worked out what the end time was. So in the room, and this is back in the days when we did this stuff in the same room, we had a flip chart with just times and a message code. And on the projector behind us was just a very simple box that showed message text coming in with a bit of a decoding and a clock. And as part of the review, we explained there's not a lot to show you because a lot of the work we've been doing for the last sprint has been highly technical, deep in the bowels of the product. But we've put this together. Okay? At these times, these messages will appear. And what was one important thing that we did? No developer was touching a machine. Okay? Throughout the review, the only person who touched the machine was our product owner. She did a fantastic job of navigating it all and explaining things. But on the screen behind us, at 10:11 or whatever it was, a message suddenly appeared, and it was the right. And as soon as it appeared, we asked people, is that what you expected? Is it done this stuff? And you can see a very simple explanation based on the content of the message. And yeah, this is great. And then at 10:25, another message appeared. And we paused everything and we had a chat about that and is it what they expected? And the stakeholders, they really appreciated it. Okay? Not because there was some boring XML text in front of them or whatever, but because we had made it simple for them to understand that we had confidence in it working. Right? They trusted us enough to know that it wasn't coded to just pop up at certain times. And we had gone out of our way to show, and by the way, developers in front of their laptops during a review always leaves that nagging doubt, is somebody controlling this? But we'd removed that. We'd actually set it up and said, here you go, this is it working, you can see it, and if you want any questions, we can of course go into the full system and track it down in the back end and you can see it. Nobody did. But that gave them confidence that we knew what we'd done, that it worked. Okay? And that's very often what you can do. Now, another example from earlier in my career, working in the healthcare sector, again on shipping messages, this time around a hospital. Very exciting life I led as a developer, mostly moving messages around systems, was based around just explaining the life of a message. So we recognize that, again, there's not a lot to show, right? Message comes in, message pops up, so what? Okay. There was so much work being done between the message being pushed into the system and it popping up in front of a doctor that they wanted to know about because they already had it pop up. We weren't showing them anything new. So what we did was the first iteration was a very simple screen that looked like a bit of an operator. So when the message hit a service, a light lit up and it said patient search or ward search or drug search or whatever it was. And we built the simplest message route. These are all the things in this order that it has to do. And they could watch it go bing, 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 bing. And the thing appeared. That was very nice. Okay. It made it visual, it made it nice and simple. And over time, this dashboard iterated and iterated and iterated so they could see all the different routes that messages could take, including when we had to expedite a message past everything and get it to the front of the queue, they saw it suddenly zoom along this line and drop in at the top of the queue. And they really liked it. In fact, they liked it so much that they ended up buying that dashboard as a way for the operators in IT to understand the state of play of all their messaging. It was a very simple, easily configurable thing. Deliberately, not a lot of work on our part. We wanted to do enough to be able to explain deeply technical problem spaces to non-technical people, very smart people, but non-technical. And that gave them, again, the confidence to understand. But it also raised up questions whether they understood how the job was done themselves, because we were at the time automating manual processes, amongst other things. And they would say things like, why does that happen before that? And we would explain why, and they would give us how it worked today and why that was different and what the connotations of that were. So we could have actually very informed discussions about a technical product without touching the technology, without talking about tech. Very much that higher level that they operated at, not down in the weeds, which developers love to be in, but actually for stakeholders, for customers, isn't valuable, it isn't tangible. So what I want you to do if you have a technical product or you end up having to demonstrate something that is deeply technical to non-technical people is, first of all, remember they exist. Don't just assume that because you as a team are highly technical and highly competent in your field, that they are. They may not be. They may have no idea how you do your job. And this is something we all have to remember, they probably don't want to know how you do your job. So don't give them data forms, things like that. Give them a simple display. Give them something that takes a few minutes to put together, but shows roughly what's happening. And then have the confidence to let it do its job. Let them play with it if you can. Okay? Make it accessible to them, not by trying to bring stakeholders down to the level of technical, but by abstracting up out of the technical into something they understand better. And if you can't build that system quickly or anything, okay, accept it, understand it, explain it. Hunt for that metaphor. What is the one story you can tell that explains what's happening today, to allow them to engage, to have a great conversation about the product and how you can improve it without looking at scrolling text on screen?